Okay. So as I mentioned, the topic is communication before words. And we'll begin by talking about what people see as communication. So I already mentioned that many people believe that communication begins when the child starts talking. So if people have children and the child is not saying any word, they'll be like, oh, my child doesn't communicate with me. I don't know. He's not saying anything. I'm not able to tell what he wants or what he wants to do. But then there are other things the child do to let you know what they want or to communicate with you. So communication will start right at birth. So as soon as you give birth to a baby, the baby can communicate. So things like crying, babies cry. When babies are hungry, they'll cry. When they are uncomfortable, they'll cry. So all these things show you that they're trying to communicate their needs or their current situation to you. So we have eye contact. Children will make eye contact with you to communicate with you. Their facial expressions. If your child is sad, you can see they have a sad face. If they are happy, you can see them smiling. If they're upset, you can see all those things from their face. All those things are forms of communication. And then we have gestures. So that's using your body to communicate. So like raising their hand for you to carry them or pointing to something, all those things are gestures, using your body to communicate. And then sounds. There are children who will make some sounds, even though there are no words. So when they say ah, always when they say the ah, they are trying to refer to maybe up or water or something. And then body movement. So the way a child will move their body will let you know that they are communicating something. So if you're trying to carry a child and the child moves away from you, you know he doesn't want you to carry him or her. So that's also a form of communication. So the objective of this training is for us to understand what communication means. It's only when we talk with words and we use actions, or there are other things that make up what communication is. Then we look at what pre-verbal skills are. So all the communication we see before the words are called pre-verbal. So before they use words, pre-verbal skills. We are going to look at the importance of joint attention. We are also going to look at how turn-taking builds conversation skills, the role of bonding in communication, and simple activities that can support your communication development or your child's communication development. So first of all, we'll start with communication. What does communication mean? In very simple terms, it means sending and receiving messages. So it doesn't necessarily require words. So if I send you a message, maybe if someone enters the room and I want to do kokonsa, and then I wink at you to look towards that direction, and you understand what I'm saying, that is communication. I've sent a message and you have received the message. So there has to be a sending and someone receiving it. So if you send the message and the person doesn't understand what you are saying, then you haven't been able to complete the communication with the person. So if I speak maybe Hausa with somebody who speaks Chi, I haven't communicated because the person has not received the message I'm trying to send to them. So some examples of communication we have listed here are smiling. So smiling tells you something. It tells you the state of the person's emotions. If I'm smiling, more or less, I'm happy or I'm glad about something. If I'm waving, I'm either trying to say hi or hello or draw your attention. If I'm pointing, I'm trying to draw your attention to something that my finger is pointing at. If I'm crying, I'm not happy about a situation, I'm upset about something. If I'm nodding, that's to say yes, nodding and shaking your head. They are all forms of communication. And children will learn these non-verbal ways of communication before they learn the verbal ones. And there's been research to support that. Children who use a lot of gestures growing up are more likely to develop language more earlier or more completely in life. So communication development is like building a house. We are going to use this analogy to help us understand it more. So we already mentioned that communication is simply sending and receiving message. Okay, so how does it develop? So I can give you an idea of how it develops using a building. Very simple. So a building will have a foundation, That's where everything sits on. It will have walls, then it will have a roof, right? So if your foundation is strong, it means that the building is going to be strong. If your foundation is weak, the house is going to be very unstable. That's a very simple analogy to look at. So it's the same thing that happens for communication. So when we look at the foundation for children or for us growing up, is the pre-verbal skills. So if we have those pre-verbal skills I mentioned earlier, like gestures, pointing, facial expressions, if we have all those things strong, then it means that the language will also be strong later on in life. So we are going to go into details about what pre-verbal skills are. So pre-verbal skills, as I mentioned, are just skills children will develop before they start speaking. So any other skill they will use to communicate before the words actually come, before their first word actually comes out, that is pre-verbal skills. And some of this skill will continue through our life. Like pointing, we still point even after we talk. We still use our body to communicate even after we talk. But all this will develop even before the speech comes, and they will continue even after speech has developed. So these pre-verbal skills, what did they help the children do? They help the children with interaction, attention, social communication, and listening. These are the building blocks of speech and language. That's the foundation. Like if you have a building, that will be your foundation. These pre-verbal skills. And the next thing we are going to look at some of the key pre-verbal skills that children will exhibit. So as we mentioned earlier, eye contact. So if a child is looking at you when you are saying something. So they don't necessarily have to look into your eye, but they have to look in the direction from which the speech is coming. There's been research with babies to show that they look more in the direction of their mother's faces when she talks. So if there are two people talking and then the mother is talking, they look more in the direction of her face. So they are trying to give an eye contact because that's a sound they are used to because they grew up in the mother's stomach. So that's a sound they are used to. They'll give that person more eye contact. So that's something we know that children will develop naturally. So from birth, they can hear, even before birth, they can hear. So they know their mother's voices. So when they come out of the stomach, like when they are babies, they are supposed to be able to give that eye contact or that facial contact to voices that they hear. The next thing we are looking at is attention. Attention is basically focus. So how can a child focus on something? So if I'm doing something, am I able to look at it and finish till I'm done? That's basically attention. It's just focus. Then joint attention is you sharing an attention with a child. Simply speaking, that's sharing an attention with a child. Then, or sharing the focus. As I said, attention is simply focusing on something. Then turn taking is when basically taking turns doing something. I do something, then you do, then I wait for it to be done, then I do. That's basically what turn taking is. Then we have gestures, using the body to speak, imitation. So maybe you make a sound, the child tries to make the same sound like and the child also do all those things are imitation. Then listening. If you are saying something, the child listening to what you are saying, that's also a pre-verbal skill. It's not something that should be overlooked, like, oh, say we are all here or you're saying, but there has to be the child is actually actively listening to you, not just hearing what you are saying. And then there's emotional bonding. I think this explains itself. So the first pre-verbal skills we are going to look at is eye contact. It's one of the first communication tools babies use. As I mentioned, research we have has shown that babies will look towards their mother's faces first, because that's the voice they've heard in her stomach or in her tummy. So that's one of the first things they will use, eye contact. So that's when babies look at your face. And when they look at your face, they are actually learning emotion. So if your child looks at you and you are smiling, he's learning that smiling, frowning, he's learning all those emotions by just looking at your face. It creates a connection. So the more they look at it, the more they have a connection with the parents. It creates attention. That's focus. They are learning to focus on one thing at a time. It also teaches them interaction. Just this eye contact is giving you all these benefits, giving the baby all these benefits. So this is an activity you can use to practice what eye contact is like in your everyday life, or to have an idea of what we mean by eye contact. So you can pair with someone, speak to each other without eye contact, and speak again while making eye contact. So you can do this anybody at home, with family, anybody. Just try and see how that works and see the difference it makes when there's eye contact and when there's no eye contact. I don't know how if we can break out and do this. I'm trying to see if I can put us in breakout rooms. Let me see how many of us we are. Can we all use our videos? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, so I can hear.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I was saying, can we all use our videos now? Would that be a convenient thing for us? I want to see if we can do this activity in pairs and see how that goes. Will everybody be able to use their video, or that will not be possible?
Um,
Okay. I don't know if they're having difficulty with the internet or something. So we'll just go on without doing this activity then. So the next pre-verbal skill we are looking at is joint attention. That's when I said we are all looking at the same thing, or we are all focusing on the same thing. And joint attention looks like two people sharing a flashlight. So if I'm holding a flashlight and I put it on, we'll all look in the direction of that flashlight. So that is what joint attention looks like. And there's an image that depicts joint attention. So the boy is pointing to a boy, mommy is looking at it. So they are both focusing on one object. That's what joint attention is. So when a child is pointing at something and you are looking at it, he's just trying to tell you to look at it. Like if it's pointing, mommy, look. If you're driving, a child is pointing at a billboard or pointing at eggs, someone is selling eggs. He's trying to draw your attention to it so that you look at what he is pointing at. So this is what I mentioned earlier. It's like using a flashlight. You all have to focus on one thing if you are using the flashlight. So what joint attention does is it helps children learn words, meaning, and social interaction. So if a child points at egg, for example, and you say, "Oh, you want eggs," he's already picked up something because he's pointing to something. You've mentioned the name eggs. He's learning words, he's learning the meaning of what the egg is, and he's learning social interaction. Because maybe you smile or you hug him for what he's pointing, or you say something. All those are things that will help the child with social interaction. So these are some signs of joint attention. So a child pointing to an object, that's a way a child is trying to share an attention with you. Like, I'm showing you something, let's all look at it together. Or a child will bring a toy to you. Maybe he brings a toy to you to see. That's also joint attention. And looking back and forth between objects and parents. So a child will see something, maybe a car in the shop. You are shopping, a child will see a car that he likes. Then he look at you, then he look at the toy. That's also a form of joint attention. And then following where you, the parents, points. That's also a type of joint attention. The next pre-verbal skill we are looking at is turn taking. Turn taking simply means waiting and responding during interaction. So it works like tennis, like the way you play tennis, I'll throw it to you, you hit it back like that. So just a back and forth in simple terms, really. So one person speaks, the other person responds, and that's how communication actually works, as you mentioned earlier. There must be someone sending the message, someone receiving the message. So one person speaks and the other response. An example would be a parent and a child just there. Maybe the parents will say bad, the child will say that. That's an interaction. This is a very early form of conversation. So a simple game that we can do to have an idea of what turn taking is. So these are actually games I want us, or these activities are things I want us to do in our daily lives. That way it will help us see the point of view of our children when they are trying to communicate with us. So like the joint attention activity I mentioned earlier, like the eye contact activity I mentioned, these are things we are supposed to do. So that gives us more of an idea of how the child feels when they're communicating to us. It puts us in the shoes of children who do not yet have words. So please try and do it if you have people around. So a simple game would be like pass a ball around the group. So only the person holding the ball can speak. This gives you an idea of what turn taking is in conversation. So when one person is speaking, the next person will be quiet. When you now have the ball, now it's time for you to speak. It demonstrates what turn taking is in typical conversation. We are going to look at bonding and communication. So one thing is smiling. So smiling with a child builds trust and connections. Cuddling. These are things we all do with children anyway, but I'm just trying to point out the significance of what we do and how it's going to help them. So for cuddling, it shows physical affection. It creates a kind of security and comfort. So if a child is scared and you hug them tightly, they feel a bit safe. It just creates that comfort. And we have play, interactive games, will develop their social skills. So maybe you hit, I hit. There's drama, we are doing it together, or we are doing pretend play. All those things will develop their social skills. Singing will enhance language development. So, for example, if you have a song like "Head, shoulders, listen to," the child is learning all those words by the actions that you are saying in the song. So, head, shoulders, he's learning all those things little by little. And then talking. Talking will strengthen the communication pathways. So, the way the brain works, the more you talk, the more the child is learning words, the more it strengthens the pathways for the child to develop communication. That's why repetition is key when trying to help children with communication. So we are quickly going to look at how the brain develops. When we understand how the brain develops, we understand how to support our children better. So we are going to look at it in early years, how the brain is developing. So very early on, that's a critical period for forming brain connections. So when children are born, the brain is still developing up until 5 years. So when we say that developing, it means they are forming more neural pathways. And when we learn something, we form a neural pathway. So the more they repeat something, the more they can learn it and it becomes a new pathway. And when the pathway is formed, it means they've learned that skill. So earlier on, that's when they are creating the pathways. We'll get to a point your pathways will stop, will have finished being created, and now you formed your brain fully. Or yeah, basically. And then having meaningful exchanges will also strengthen the pathway. So these are things you can do to strengthen the pathways. So interacting with the child, communicating with the child, they all strengthen the pathways in the brain of the child. As you can see, you see all these are all neural connections. So basically, your brain is like a road network. So the more interaction the child experiences, the stronger and connected these pathways become. So each activity you do with the child will strengthen that pathway. It will add new routes. It will reinforce the ones that are there already. It will create efficient highways for communication, basically using the road analogy. So these are some everyday activities you can do to help with communication development. So these are things you can do naturally during our everyday routines. So singing, you can sing during car rides, during bath time, anytime you can just sing really. And what singing does is it enhances the rhythm and language. So they're hearing words, they're learning rhythm. You can read to your child maybe bedtime stories or just regular, just sit them down and read a story, show them pictures. Reading will introduce your child to vocabulary and concepts. There are lots of concepts we didn't know, but we learned about it in books. For example, if you were born in Ghana, you've not traveled before, and you read a book about snow, you know there's a concept like snow. You know that idea of snow, even though you've not seen it before. So it's introducing you to new concepts that you wouldn't have even been open to if you hadn't read. And we have a game like Peekaboo. It teaches you object permanence. So children before 2 years have something, do not have what we call objects, or they have something we call object permanence. So what that means is that if you hold the phone to them right now, they can say, okay, you are holding the phone, right? When they don't see the phone again, or you put the phone behind your head or something, they don't think to look behind your head, because for them, once they can see is what is there. What they can't see is what is not there. Do you get it? So Peekaboo is teaching them that, okay, something you cannot see can still be there. When you open, oh, the thing is still there. Teaching them to understand that things you cannot see in the moment can still be there. And it also teaches them the anticipation. So he knows that if you do this, after 3 seconds, you are opening. So he's looking forward to that. That's anticipation. And then we have naming objects. So regularly, you can just name objects for a child. It helps them categorize their world. So if a child points to a ball, you can say, oh, ball. If a child is pointing to fan, oh, you're looking at the fan. Everything the child is focusing on or trying to bring your attention to, you can just name it for them so they understand what the word is, or they can label everything they see around them. And copying sounds, that's imitation. So basically, like I showed you earlier, the father will say ba, the child will say ba, and they're trying to imitate what the child. So the more they copy the vocal skills, the more it will build their confidence and to build their range of vocal skills that they have. So if I don't know if you've seen videos of children from other parts of the world. You notice that maybe French children, for example, they have a range of sounds that children here do not have. Like you hear a child making those back throat sounds at a very early age because they are copying and they are learning those different range of sounds from their parents. And we move on to face-to-face play. So first of all, if you are doing face-to-face play, the first step is to sit face-to-face. This is very straightforward. You position yourself at your child's eye level. So if anyone has seen a child having therapy, more or less, you notice that we try and get a small chair to be at the same level with the child, or sit on the floor to try and be at more or less eye level with the child. The next step with face-to-face play is to smile and make sounds. So not necessarily smile, just make expressive faces. So invite vocalization. So you have a baby, you put the child in front of you, just be making faces, making different sounds. All those are parts of face-to-face play. And then the third thing you have to do is wait for a response. So sometimes when you make a response, you wait to see if the child will do something back or make a sound back. All this is face-to-face play, which will help with communication development. We are going to look at practical communication strategies. We've already spoken about naming things. So we are going to give you an example of what that looks like. So naming what the child sees. You point and label objects in the environment. So you see a dog, a car, a bird, a plane, anything, look at it, you point to it and tell them what it is. Copy the child. So you can do a play where you are copying the child's sound. So you can have like a mirror play, put the mirror down, the child makes a sound, you make the same sound. And at that stage, he's looking at your facial expression and his facial expression at the same time on the mirror and copying. And that also shows that his communication is also important. So if I'm just saying that, I also see, oh, wow, that, he feels like, okay, what I'm saying is important. It encourages them to communicate more. So we are going to look at some signs of communication delay. So some of the pre-verbal skills you mentioned, you see that some of them are delaying here, or you notice some of them here to help you see that the child has a communication delay. So the first thing we'll look at is little eye contact. So if a child is avoiding or minimizing the way he looks at your face during interaction, that can be a sign of communication delay. When a child doesn't respond to name, we know children will respond to name as early as 9 months. So by 9 months, children should know their name. Most children by 9 months, between 9 months and 12 months, they should respond to their name. If you call their name, they'll turn. Or yeah, or they'll say, they'll make a sound. They'll just turn and know that they'll acknowledge that you mentioned their name, because by then they're supposed to know their names. So if a child is not responding to his name, that can indicate a communication delay. If a child is not pointing, as I mentioned earlier, one indicator of language development or proper communication development is children using gestures very early on in their development. So a child is not pointing or using gestures, that can be a sign of a communication delay. If a child is not imitating, so you don't copy your actions or your sounds or what you do, then that can be a sign of communication delay. And finally, if a child prefers to play alone, he doesn't care much for other people, so he can just come and sit there and play with his toy back and forth. He doesn't care if there are other children in the room or not. So if you notice any of these signs, I mean, these are just 5 we mentioned, but there are more. If you notice any of these sounds, that's an indication that the child might have a communication delay. So that he needs further like assessment or further probing to see what the issue is or what can be done to help. Excuse me. So basically, communication begins with connection. That's building meaningful bonds through experiences. And then attention, focusing on people and interactions. Then interaction itself, engaging in two-way communication. And then finally, play. So this is one topic we've been talking about a lot, screen time. So we want to highlight why people matter, okay? Why people matter. Screens cannot replace human interaction, okay? Screens give children more of a one-way feedback, and real human interaction provides that responsive feedback. So you see all the emotion in real time, and you see all the response in real time, how it's supposed to be. It's not done to get their attention. It's not done for it to be too loud. It's exactly how it's experienced in real time. Real human interaction provides emotional connection. You can create emotional connection to the person that you are interacting with. It's not the same as screen time. Screen doesn't give you that emotional interaction. It only takes your focus or your attention. It's only taking your attention, but you don't get any emotional interaction or any emotional connection with the screen. And also contextual learning, screens cannot replicate it. So if we are learning how to mold something, a screen can show you how to mold it, but it doesn't give you that hands-on experience. So you have someone else with you holding your hands to shape it. You are learning through hands-on interaction. That's something a screen cannot do. So that's why having people or interacting directly with a child matters. So what children need is face-to-face time. So having direct interaction with a child face-to-face. Responsive facial expression. So if I'm looking at you, I'm smiling. If you something I'm not happy about, I'm showing you that I'm not happy about it. It builds the trust and understanding, as you've mentioned earlier. Children need responsive voices, back and forth conversation. So where you are listening to them and you are responding to them. So even if a child is not speaking and he makes a sound and you know what he means and you respond to it, that's something the child will need. Responsive voices, emotional connection. So you have to create that emotional connection with your child for the child to feel safe. If children feel safe, they can learn. Even we as adults, if we feel safe, we thrive better. If you're at a workplace that is toxic, you don't really do your best. But if you feel safe at a place, you feel loud, you feel seen, you are more likely to do better than if you're at a place that feels a bit toxic. Then finally, our support services that we offer. So we have communication development, that's basically building foundation for speech and language and social skills. I mentioned communication development earlier, like the building we spoke about. And then we have early intervention. So that's we addressing developmental needs early for the best outcome. So I mentioned earlier that the brain develops, that's most of the development, like 90% of the brain develops between 0 and 5 years. Okay. So that's why we target them early. So that at that point they are building their neural pathways before they are fully developed. We help them build those pathways. Then thirdly, what we do is parent education. We empower the parents with the knowledge and strategies that they need. Because let us be real, when children come for therapy, we'll see them about 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week or 3 hours a week, but that is not enough. The parents will see them more times and will interact more with them. Then inclusive learning. Inclusive learning. So that's creative, accessible environment. So at Khad-San, we try and create an environment for the child. We don't let the child fit into what we are doing. We create the environment based on what the child needs and what supports work more with the child or work better with the child. So finally, we do the parents' education and inclusive learning, as I mentioned, inclusive learning. So parents' education is the workshops we do, like what we are doing right now, the online workshops. We create resources for you to go and read on your own or use on your own. And there are one-on-one coaching to help parents and schools. So we go to schools to help the teachers on how to interact with some kids or how to help them reach their maximum potential. And then we also do inclusive learning. So we create environments where all the children's abilities are seen and are catered for, promoting understanding and acceptance. So basically, we've come to the end of the training for today. I don't know if I went too fast. If you have any questions, we can ask them now. Does anyone have any question? Okay, let me check the chat. Okay. Hello, any questions? No. Okay, what strategies do people currently use at home to support learning? Sorry, Aziza, are you asking which strategies do people use, like people on the, what's it called, the Zoom call use? Hi, Mildred. Good morning. Hello. Okay, someone is asking what strategies parents can use at home to support learning. Um, we mentioned it earlier in the slides. So like singing, face-to-face interaction, peekaboo, turn taking, those things. Those are stuff you can do to support your child's early communication development. Yeah, you can even do reading. Yeah, you can have reading, peekaboo, singing, naming objects, turn taking. Those are stuff you can do to support or strategies you can use to support your child's communication.
Zuluya, good morning.
Good morning.
About the reading, I don't
Pardon?
know, but the reading bit, it's
Okay.
really, I try it, but it's not working. Once you open the book, he just wants to like open the rest of the pages, then you throw it away. So like you're trying to read, and I've tried like when he's sleepy, but when he's sleepy, he doesn't want me to talk. So when he's
Oh,
sleepy and you try to read, you just hold your mouth or he just like shush you, you know. And when he's active too, he doesn't want to sit because he's very like he wants to jump, he wants to.
yeah.
So how do you get him to like get involved in the reading? Because he just wants to like flip the pages, or sometimes he just wants to
Hi.
tear the pages.
There's the pages. Okay, so
So
first of all, we are going to get a hardcover book, like very hard books.
okay.
And secondly, we actually start small with the children. So you can just do 10 seconds with him. It doesn't have to be a long time. Even if he flips through, as far as he's flipping, whatever you can see, you are just mentioning to him. You get it. You can try that. Just he's flipping fast to get, but whatever you see, you are trying to mention the thing to him before he throws the book away. We can also try things that will get him to focus. So, for example, if there's something he likes to maybe play with or touch, you can make him use that to point at the book. So you try and infuse what he likes already to introduce the book reading. It doesn't have to be reading for long or saying things. Reading can just look like labeling the thing. So boy, car, apple. It doesn't have to be what the boy is going to the farm for now. So maybe we can try that and see. So if there's a toy he likes, you can mix it up with the reading. So if you put the book down, he plays the toy small, then you open the book fast, you throw away, and then another time you try again, he plays a little with the toy, you read the book a little for him and see how that works.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Who has a question? Joint attention, turn taking.
Yeah, the joint attention. Can you throw more light on it?
So joint attention is when two people focus on one thing. So I use the analogy of a flashlight. If the lights are out and I have a flashlight and I'm holding it, we'll all look at where the flashlight is actually pointing to because that's where the light is. So that's what joint attention looks like. So that's the ability of someone to look at what you are pointing at. So if you and your child are working, you point at maybe an airplane flying and he's looking at it, that's developing joint attention. So both of you looking at the same thing or focusing on the same thing, basically. So there are children that do not have that. You have to practice with them for a while they understand that if I'm pointing at one thing, I'm supposed to look at what you are pointing. If I bring you something, you're supposed to look at what I have brought to you.
So I think this week, for like last week, this week, we've been doing a lot of the pointing.
Okay.
But he would always want you to, like when so I have some stickers on the wall. So like duck, butterfly, bee, like some animals. And when you make the sound, he's very interested in it. And so when I point on, let's say a dog, then I do the woof woof. When I point on the cat, so he's enjoying it, but he doesn't want to do the pointing. You know
Okay,
him.
but
He wants
when
me.
you are pointing, is he looking at it?
Yes, he is, and he's so like interested in it. But when I try to get him to point it, then he wants to peel the thing off. So we are working on the pointing. We're working on the pointing. It has improved though. It has improved, but I think it's the consistency that matters, which sometimes is.
But typically, he points at what he wants to point at, right? There are things that he will go and point at.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but it's not regular.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would just take more practice to develop the skills.
Yeah.
What else? Any other question?
The last one.
Okay.
Lately I've been seeing things about gut healing, and how the gut is connected to the brain and whatever organ is responsible for talking. I don't know your perspective on that.
Okay, so I do not do diet, right?
No, gut, GUT,
Yeah,
gut
I'm
healing.
also saying I don't do things to do with diet and feeding and all
Oh,
those
okay,
things.
okay.
But I understand because I've seen I've had real experiences, right? Where people change their children's diet. So maybe they do more of probiotics, those gluten-free and those things for their children, right? And then it improves their behavior. So I have seen
Okay.
how it has been done with other kids, but I don't have that expertise to tell you give the child this or do this for the child. Do you get it? But of course, the gut and the brain are actually connected. What we eat affects how we act. more or less. So it's just like taking sugar. If a child takes too much sugar, you can see that the child is quite
Okay.
hyper, jumping around. You
Mm.
get it? If you
Mm.
take really fatty food, you see how you become slow. Like even we grown-ups, even the food we eat affects the way we act. So there's a connection between gut health and brain health. That is a no-brainer, but I don't have the ability to tell you exactly what each
Yeah,
child
and
needs based on. Yeah.
thank you.
Salima, do you have something to add about this gut health? Oh, she's not here.
Hello, please, can I ask something?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so I learned quite a little about the gut. So for me,
When
I
are you
try.
being him keep quiet, fine like that? Hey,
So for me, I'm doing the dieting. I've taken sugar out, and I
okay,
do more of the smoothies, and then those lemon shots and others. I, I've realized that the hyper behavior has come down a little. But then
okay,
what I've not really been doing is what you are doing. Yes. For him, you can see him, he loves the books. So he will take a book and be like he's reading. The teachers have also confirmed that sometimes he does read.
like the reading.
Yeah. So for me, it looks like I'm using part of yours and then the diet, but I'm not really an expert in it. I'm just it is like you are trying here and here to see if things will be getting better. So for
Yeah,
me, that's what I'm doing.
okay. So who created the diet for the child?
The diet, I actually met a lady at church whose son is also autistic.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
so she was helping me with some meal plans. Like once in a while, I should chip it into the meals because first he was eating nothing except rice.
mm-hmm.
But
Okay,
when I started the organic stuff, now he eats everything, including
yeah,
fufu, soup, everything. Yeah. So
mm,
it's true. There's something about the gut health, but we have to combine the two so that they'll be
yeah.
better for us. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay. So Nana, I think we'll try and get you someone or a plan that will help with the question you've asked, the gut health, and how you can support your child's gut health.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Sylvia, let me get back to you. Which strategies do you use with the child? Because you mentioned he likes reading. Are there other things you do with him, like the pick up when the play? Which other strategies did I mention that you actually use in your child to develop the pre-verbal skills?
I think the joint thing, I
Okay.
I yeah, I sometimes do that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
And the pick up when other things, yeah, he's able to do it. He's 6. He is quite
He's
active.
quite okay.
Yeah. The only problem is the communication. Like him telling you I want this and that. That's the only thing now we are seeing is a worry.
Okay. So when he wants something, how does he tell you?
If he wants water, you go for the water himself.
Okay, so
Or
he's using his body to do the
yeah.
communication.
Or maybe if there's a bottle somewhere and he wants you to pick up, you hold your hand towards the bottle.
Hmm. Okay.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So it's the words that haven't yet come out.
Yeah, I'm not coming. And first, when you call him, he doesn't even turn his back. But now
Yeah.
there's the eye contact when you call him. Even when he's in another room, when you call him, he comes to you.
Oh, that's actually good.
Yeah. That is when we started doing the dieting thing. The
Okay.
smoothies. Yeah. But it's not really consistent. That's my flaw. Most of the time it's not consistent, but I've tried my best to cut a lot of things out.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
And it's I think the whole idea of what we are all doing is to help develop the brain because the brain that controls everything.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
therapy we do is to help create connections in the brain. The gut you are doing to is also to help with the brain. So the end goal is for us to develop the brain as much as we can, really.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. I've not heard from Mildred and Erica. We're cool. Please, you can type your questions in the chat. If you don't have any questions, so please can you let me know in the chat so we know if we should just end the training here. I'm going to stop recording now.